may change for the better, it may change for the worse. It may go into a new concept or go back to an old one, but it will change. Now, we are changing, trying to constantly. I'm going to attempt to tell you some of the changes that I anticipate. I've also been asked a number of times, what sort of results are you going to prove by thus and such research? Well, in a sense, that's a stupid question. If I knew what kind of results I was going to produce, then I wouldn't have to do the research. If you know in advance the results of research, and it isn't research, and it's a demonstration. Now, sometimes that's necessary also. A very large part of the research done in this country, or rather published in this country, was in fact never performed. I could quote you chapter and verse and names and dates of a long list of very highly respected individuals in the field of physiology who have published papers on research programs that in fact never happened. They sat down at a desk one day and took a pencil and they wrote down the figures that they would have produced if they had done the story or the study, and they published it. Now, since you might say, well, you might be able to prove what somebody did, but how do you prove what somebody didn't do? Well, one of these studies, the man does not mention either the date, which is perhaps the single most important part of any research, the date. Oh, you invented the wheel. Well, that's nice. When? It means nothing if you're second or third or 19th. When did you invent the wheel? And where did you publish that revelation? Well, now, if there were wheels being used prior to that or talked about, then you didn't invent it. So the date is perhaps the single most important thing in any research study. This man didn't bother to mention the date. I wonder why. The second most important thing is perhaps the where. He doesn't mention that either. Well, a little third grade grammar school arithmetic, if you read the study and look at it, will tell you, since he claims that he personally supervised the whole study in detail, that this man has either a very fast watch or a very slow one, because it would take him 200 hours a week. The number of subjects he had, the number of exercises they did, the number of sets, the number of repetitions, the rest between the studies, the pace of movement, and so on. Well, it's very simple. You sit down and you add this up, taking his own data. It would require 200 hours a week, and he personally did it all. Well, I don't have 200 hours in my week. I don't think he does either. In due course, we're going to give him a chance to produce the research subjects in court. Supposedly, he had 20 of them. He may get one guy to get up on the witness stand and perjure himself and claim he was one of the subjects. But when we get through with the first one, the other 19 will no longer be in the courtroom. They will have suddenly remembered imperative business elsewhere.